Alright, and welcome back. This one's taking me a while to make here. But what we are talking about today on TYCo for TYCo is we're going to be making new bolsters.
From TYCo, of course.
Alright, now I think you all are getting the gravity of the situation and why it's taking so long for this new TYCo challenge. We're going to be making some bolsters here. And I've tried a few different styles of trying to make it. First, I tried to take our Model Power underframe and I tried to make a pseudo bolster, and that turned out to be too short. And so I was fiddling around, and we're going to be using our very dirty plastic sheeting, and we're just going to cut out some. Alright, so the first thing I did here is I took our widest bolster, which is the front part of our Super 630. This, of course, is the Power Torque bolster. And I just took a simple old pencil, marked a couple of ends, used my ruler here to make it nice and straight. And then I took our other bolster that I cut very poorly, and I kind of roughly traced this out so that we can start cutting and molding our clips. This is going to be the tough part right here. This should be the easy part, but we will get to it. And I'm just double checking something here on my bolsters. I just want to make sure that they're the same size. What I'm probably going to do is I got one of these little Dremel parts here. It's just a Dremel carving bit, and I'm going to use the carving bit to carve these out, start shaping them. And that's one thing you need to know about Dremels, is if you go to the hardware store or the hobby shop or anything like that, you can get a multitude of little attachments for your Dremel, and you should be able to make these shapes. So I'm going to be using several shapes. First, I'm going to be using this to hog it out and get our hole made, and then I will use a different one so that I can start making the shapes here for our bolster clips, which I'm noticing is really interesting here. If you can see this, one end is slightly curved and the other end is very flat. So this is going to be interesting. But first we're going to just make our big square shapes, and then we'll use our Dremel to cut these down to the size that we need to make our bolsters work. And of course, with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'll use our handy dandy little Walmart scorer here to go ahead and score our pieces and start getting that ready. This one's going to be tough. Helps if I actually put it on the right spot here. Yeah. Alright, let's get our Dremel set up and let's start doing the inside here. Alright, for purposes of me, I gotta hold everything and I can't really hold it down for the camera too well. We're gonna use a miracle of time to show how these are all hogged out afterwards. One of the things you should know is make sure you use multiple attachments. Don't just stick with one. There are other attachments that we're going to be using, smaller ones, so we can get all the fine cutting done out. But yeah, we'll be back. Now, one of the things I have to do, obviously, is since I'm building bolsters from scratch, I have to check and recheck everything. And so I'm using my original bolsters as a guide first off, and making sure that our homemade bolster mount will fit in perfectly. Now I've got this tacked on with a little bit of super glue, which I'll be able to shave off and file down afterwards. So again, don't throw anything away just yet. And then when we're done with our bolsters, I think our next step will be to mount our motor, and that's gonna get to be fun. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna do a little more hogging out in certain areas, and then we'll get the finer details mounted in for our bolster clips. Alright, work is going by very quickly here. Now at this point, I'm going to use very light strokes to bring it down and hopefully get the shape right. So again, I'm going to be holding it in all sorts of angles, not going to work for the camera, but I'll show you the final results when we're done. This would also be a good time to where I use my magnifying headlamp with light so that I can make sure I get these cuts at least as precise as possible to make this fit in and to make this work. And then we're going to go with the outside portion, and this is going to be for the rear truck. So yeah, let's get at it. Alrighty, and now that we've got our bottoms done here, we're going to go ahead and we'll trace the outlines, and instead of using our Dremel, we're going to use the old tried and true way of X-Acto knife and a ruler so that we can get our taps to fit. So let's go ahead and do that, and hopefully I don't cuss up a storm. Now the front is going to be the toughest part, and that is because our opening is so close that I definitely don't want to try and cut into it. I don't think that's going to be the issue here. But again, I'm gluing these on top as our template. Let's make this work. Okay, helps if I have the eyes. One thing about getting old and wearing glasses is just the fact that I always have to take them off, even if they are bifocals. Well, that was unexpected. It was very unexpected. Alright, so that's... Oh, well, glue just hasn't set yet. Interesting thing about super glue and Delrin, doesn't really want to hold on there. I think we'll go ahead with this one then. We'll use our saw to make our notches. First, I think that's the best way. I think I've got enough play right under the tabs. It's where we can make our scribe. Why are we... There we go. It's the same to the other side. Go. Yep. Ruler walked off on me. Ruler still walked off on me. This one might be a problem. Okay, let's fit this into our shell and see what we need for any adjustments if we need any. And it looks like it's just got to be a little thinner. A little thinner on the back. Front looks good. Back needs to still come down a little bit.
You've got mail.
That's nice. Alright. Our rear bolster is in. I'm going to get working on the front bolster. Now this one's going to be a little more difficult because of how close our opening is here. So this one's going to be a little more precise. Alright, let's see if we get this to fit in our front. Okay, we got that in. Need to take a little off one side. All right. We now have bolsters. Let's go ahead and drop our trucks in just to see how we look. I gotta hit the other motor. Righteous. Our new ALCo trucks are in, and they look correctly proportioned in distance and in height. So far we are looking good. I am not worried about these TYCo trucks, we'll be removing them and body mounting couplers afterwards. But for the most part, we've got enough gap here for swing. So we are on the move, and that's right now, that's a noticeable difference right there. So our next step will be to mount in the motor, and then we got to figure out how I'm going to mount in the clips and all this. Let's see if we can do that right now. Now, as you can see here, the clips were busted, so I did a little reinforcing here. We're going to cut down this because these things already hit the top. So let's get our front truck mounted in here first. Okay, let's get my other one here. I gotta get the clip. And once again, I'm just gonna get rid of that so that we don't have any room hitting the top. Don't. There we go. Before I do that, go ahead and cut off the TYCo adapters. This rear one's going to be a interesting mother. There we go. Work on. There we go. Oop. All right. I got good spin. I got enough float here. So there we go. This was actually the hardest part. In our next episode, we're going to go ahead and we will wire up our motor We'll get our DCC plug put in, and then we will go from there. So that's going to be a lot of work, but I mean, this is a great start. This is actually looking a lot better than it did before, obviously. I mean, what a difference the right truck side frames make. So we'll do a little more dressing up in between, but until the next time, I am TYCo for TYCo. Hey friends, thanks for watching the video. I know you're at the end, but if you like this video, just remember, every 2 weeks I'm going to be bringing out a new video on budget model railroading, the history of TYCo trains, the history of other model railroad companies, and some how-to things that maybe you've never learned before, or you've known and you want to share with your friends but you never knew how. Well, here's the way. All you got to do on this video is like, share, subscribe, and if you want notifications, hit the little bell there, which I still don't know how to do, but we'll figure it out eventually. But until then, hey, we'll see you in the next video, and I am TYCo for TYCo.